Living near fracking operations in northeastern BC is a nightmare. Once sleepy communities now find themselves in an industrial sacrifice zone with serious health and safety risks to local residents. Elvin Gowan was a lawyer working with the Farmers Advocacy Office until it was shut down.
Had clients that had situations where the fracking was so unbearable, the noise, the lights, the vibration from that exercise, some distance from the house. Teenage kids have simply told their parents they're going to go live with their friends because they can't do well at school because they can't get sleep from the noise, hanging blankets over their windows, and still the light shines through.
Sour gas, or hydrogen sulfide, is an extremely deadly chemical found in much of the raw gas in northeastern British Columbia. It can kill a person within minutes.
And sour gas, we see more and more where the pipeline would follow often the access corridors to the property, and of course with the sour gas and the emergency planning zone accompanied with that, there would be in many cases no safe exit from the property in the event of an emergency.
When there's a sour gas leak, people need to evacuate the area immediately. If that's not possible, the guidance is to seal up your home, duct tape your windows, turn off your furnace, and wait for rescue. Imagine living like this 24/7. Dr. Ulrika Meyer works at the hospital in Dawson Creek and has seen the impacts of fracking on her patients.
If you have a fallout of the H2S, initially you smell the foul smell. If the concentration gets higher, you don't smell anything anymore. And that's the danger with H2S, right? So if it leaks or escapes, even at well sites, they do monitor the well sites really well. So they have monitors for H2S there, because if you don't smell it, you're dead. You lose consciousness and it doesn't take long. So, and if somebody comes to rescue, then that person, if they don't have the gear on and protection, then they will be the next person lying down. One woman who had animals and lived in a little bit of a valley downwind from it, and she had quite the exposure, and one of her goats and one of her horses died in front of her. And she was told that there should be no concerns to her health. Unfortunately, she cannot talk and walk anymore, couldn't do her job anymore. And the horses who survived cannot gallop anymore or go a fast pace because of their lung issues and breathing issues. Elise's work was quite of concern too when she came in as a PhD student from Montreal University and doing her toxicology degree, and she tested 30 pregnant women, and the benzene metabolites were increased in the urine of these pregnant women, and also the trace metals in form of aluminum, strontium, manganese and barium was elevated in these pregnant women. In the indigenous population it was 6 times higher levels, and these women get compared to the rest of the Canadian population. So barium, I didn't know how shocking it was to Elise Caron-Baudin, but she explained it that barium is rock bound in the Montney Formation, so several kilometers below us where the fracking is happening. How does it get elevated in these women living up on the surface? How do they accumulate it? Is it through the air, through the water, through the food intake? So that was quite concerning.
Julian Napoleon from Saulteaux First Nation has spoken out about fracking on his territory and the impacts it has on his community and culture.
There's these studies that came out around the concentration of volatile organic compounds, known carcinogens, in pregnant women. And I felt like that is just the beginning of a massive amount of research that needs to be done. And industry's not doing it, government's not doing it. It's still happening independent of the companies that are causing it and the government that's supporting it. And to not have that kind of base level monitoring is, how could there be any process of healing when you're living in a place where you have to question the safety of your food? You have to question the safety of your water. You have to question the safety of your air. I want very much to live here for the rest of my life. And I want very much to have a family. And I want to be able to harvest and eat food from the land with my family pretty much exclusively. And I need to know that food will continue to be the medicine that it is and is supposed to be, and isn't going to cause harm. And nothing is more important to me than that, really.
Residents once had an agency to inform and represent them in dealings with gas companies, but the government shut it down because it helped farmers get their share of industry profits.
The Farmers Advocacy Office was primarily to provide support, advocacy support for landowners in dealing with oil and gas industry. Ostensibly, there was some dispute between the province and the regional district as to funding, and disagreement there that they would perhaps have you believe was the reason for shutting it down. The work we were doing was showing some progress for landowners, but was not desirable by industry. And we know for a fact that we were able to achieve some compensation levels that had not been achieved previously. Industry had a long history of dealing with landowners when they were landowners were not attuned to their legislative rights, and the industry was able to simply pick them off with their story of the day. And it most often, from our perspective, from what we've seen and the landowners we talked to in the past, they've rarely, if ever, been treated fairly. Some people are vehemently opposed to development on their land, and give them more ammunition.
Despite the extensive damage to their territories, Treaty 8 nations who have lived here for millennia are working to heal the land. For over a decade, Saulteaux and West Moberly First Nations have been running Twin Sisters Nursery to provide native plants for restoration efforts on their territories. Now, the Blueberry River First Nations have big plans to restore its land and waters after winning a landmark court case against the province because the cumulative impacts on its land have violated its treaty rights.
The restoration or reclamation work that's happening now, that really is what financially keeps the nursery afloat. So like we can grow over 500,000 native plants in the nursery in a season. And with that number, we can't come anywhere near to meeting the demand. That speaks volumes to the scale of landscape disturbance in our territory, right? I'll work with whoever wants to work with us to get these plants out on the ground and planted. And ultimately, to me, it's better that these sites are reclaimed and reclaimed well than what they were doing historically, which was planting like sweet clover or non-native species, right? And then being done with it. Blueberries, huckleberries, soapberry, all these plants, alder. These plants have serious cultural use, and hopefully planting what will grow into be intact functional ecosystems and really helping that process happen in an expedited way. And that's a win. It's a win for us. We just grow the plants at the nursery, but most of the planting taking place is being carried out by community members too, through the Saulteaux-owned company Asking Reclamation. We have a historical dependence on industry jobs here in this part of the world. Oftentimes that can be a challenging place have to turn to for work for a lot of community members. There's a lot of contention or internal conflict and struggle. I've been there. I've done some work in that field, directly as a young man, and it was really hard on me. And now I feel like that we're expanding into the realm of reclamation with the nursery, and also with what Advocacy's doing with the reclamation company and doing the field plantings. I think it provides a lot of community members, especially in the seed collection as well, going out and collecting seeds, all of it. It provides a lot of opportunities for work that a lot of community members feel really good about doing. It doesn't come with compromising your values or your teachings. It's actually something that's aligned with our old laws and ways of knowing.
Many people make the difficult choice to leave the region. Those who stay are often resigned to living under the industry's shadow.
The frustration level, many people give up who were thinking it's wrong what's done, and there should be better regulation. Most people give up after a while. They're deflated and demoralized, and because it doesn't lead to anything, right? But in the end, the industry is following the rules the policymakers make. So in the end, you cannot even hold the industry responsible because they work in the framework given to them. So we should hold policymakers and politicians responsible too.
The government seemed to have done everything it can do to make it as difficult as possible for the landowner to get resources, to get information.
Perhaps there'll be a time when the oil and gas industry has done what it's going to do here and moves on, and things could get back to the way they once were. Like even when I was a kid, the oil and gas activity was nowhere like it has been in some of the boom cycles I've lived through. The boom bust. Obviously there was some development from before my time, but I remember it being real quiet here, and actually the scale of landscape disturbance being fairly minimal. And these towns being very quiet. Like anyone could afford to access housing. And it was just kind of cute country living. And you go out in the bush and have a wonderful time and not be facing impact zone after impact zone. And part of me has a deep longing for that.
Together, we can give residents of the Peace some peace. Visit endfracking.ca to join the movement today.